Today we're going to go through and review over sections 2.1 through 2.5, and this is supposed to help you for your quiz on Monday. These are some very important facts that you're going to need to know, so go ahead and pull out your pencil, and I want you to write these into your notes. What you'll do is probably on the quiz and the test, you'll see different true and false facts, and I'm going to take it from this important information section. If you've already written it down, guys, what does KFC stand for?
Keep, flip, change.
Keep, flip, change. Now, the only time you have to use the KFC method is just when you are doing what?
Dividing fractions.
Dividing fractions, okay? So not when you're dividing any other kind of number, or not when you're multiplying fractions, but only when you are dividing fractions. Next up, the product of two negative numbers. So let's see, product means multiply. So just right beside it, sometimes it helps to have an example. -2 and then another negative number, let's say -3. The product of those is going to be what?
Positive 6.
Positive 6. So then I'm just going to look back over here and see the product of two negative numbers is always positive. So yes, that would be a true statement. Let's go to the next one, the quotient. Quotient means to divide of a positive, so let's say positive 10, divided by a negative number, so let's say -2, what would that answer be? Negative 5. So it tells us that the answer is always negative. That's a true statement because it's only one negative number. Then let's look at the last one. It says, when multiplying three negative numbers together, the answer is always negative. That's true because is 3 even or odd?
Odd.
It is an odd number, and anytime you have an odd number of negatives, your answer is always going to be negative, okay? So please spend a few minutes reviewing those important facts before your quiz on Monday. We're going to practice through a few different parts. The first thing I want us to do is to find the product. Chandler, what is 5 times -4?
20.
Okay, and is the answer positive or negative? Negative, because there's only one negative number there. Let's go on to the next one. I am multiplying decimals. Nemo, should I underline or should I line up my decimals? No. When multiplying, you do not line up decimals. Then Nemo, I've got 1, 2 negative numbers. Is my answer going to be positive or negative?
Positive.
It will be positive. So now we're just going to go ahead, 0.21 multiplied by 3.4. Let's just figure this out. How many decimal points did I have to move 0.21 to the left?
3.
I moved it over 2 times.
Wait, what?
3.4. How many did that move over?
1.
Just 1. So when we add those together, that's a total of 3. Now let's multiply it like normal. Everybody, 1 times 4?
4.
2 times 4?
8.
Put your 0 as a placeholder. 1 times 3?
3.
2 times 3?
6.
Let's add them together.
4, 11, 7.
Okay, and how many times do I move the decimal point over?
3.
3 times. Is my answer positive or negative?
Positive.
It is positive because 2 negatives equals a positive. Any questions on how we did problem B?
No.
All right, next up. -3 1/3 times 2 7/10. Emma, what should I do first before I do anything else?
KFC.
Okay, when do I use KFC, class?
When
When you're dividing. Does this tell me to divide?
No.
No, so there's something different. What should I do with the mixed number, Emma?
Oh, change it to an improper.
Change it to an improper fraction. What would -3 1/3 be?
10/3.
Negative 10/3. What would 2 7/10 be?
27 over 10.
27 over 10. Justin Frisbee, is there anything that I can reduce by crossing it out? Which ones?
3 and 27.
And they become
1 and
1 and 9. What about the 10s?
1 and 1.
They both become a 1. Now, Justin, if I look at that, I can see there is 1 negative and 1 positive. My answer is going to be?
Negative.
Negative. Okay, now Justin, multiply across the numerators. What's 1 times 9?
9.
9. And then, class, the denominator, what's 1 times 1?
1.
1. If I simplify that, what do I get?
9.
-9. Thank you for remembering the negative number. Okay, now we're going to do a few division problems. Am I allowed to divide fractions?
No.
No. What method do I have to use?
KFC.
KFC. So keep the
First.
first one, flip the
second,
and change the
sign.
sign or the operation. Okay? Next up, Holly. Is there anything I can cross reduce?
Yes.
What should I do?
The 2.
The 2's become
1s.
1's. Good job.
And then the 3 goes in the 9 3 times.
Good job.
And then the 3 becomes a 1.
Very good. And when you multiply that, what do you get?
1 over 3.
1 over 3. The correct answer is 1/3. Next one, Addie, I have 2 negative numbers. So is my answer going to be positive or negative? It has to be positive. And what's 6 divided by 3? 2 is correct. Next one, 7.5 divided by 2.5. Does the 7.5 become the number tucked underneath, or is it the one on the left side?
Underneath.
It is underneath, 7.5, and when I say divide, then I'm going to go ahead and put that division sign on top of it, okay? On the homework yesterday, a lot of people mixed that up. Now, divided by 2.5. Am I allowed to have a decimal on the left side?
You have to move it right.
You have to move it to the right, okay? It only moves over once, which means I have to move this one over once also. What's my new number?
20.
75 divided by 25. How many times can 25 go into 75?
3.
3 times. Remember, think of 25 just like a quarter. You're counting quarters, 25, 50, 75, okay? 3 times 25 is 75. Is my answer positive or negative?
Positive.
It is positive because both of these right here were positive numbers. You can go ahead and box it in right there, or you can rewrite it completely, but the correct answer is 3. Use the number properties to multiply. We've talked a lot about the commutative property. The commutative property says that I can commute or move numbers from one place to another in my problem when multiplying or adding. Can anyone see a fraction that I should move for this one? Peyton, what do you think?
Bring the 2/3 down and then bring the 3 over 2 next to it so you can cross.
Very good. We are going to simply switch the order of those two right there because this is basically the reciprocal of what that one would be. And then I have to bring down times 5/8. Looking at this right here, is there anything I can cross reduce?
Yes, 3 goes into 3 one time and 2 goes into 2 one time. And
Okay, so it all becomes ones. Now, I know I am multiplying a negative fraction times a negative fraction, so my answer will be
positive.
positive. What is negative 1 over 1 times negative 1 over 1?
1.
Just plain old 1. It would be a 1 over 1, which means 1. And now we just have to bring down times 5/8.
It equals
What is 1 times 5/8?
5/8.
5/8, because anything multiplied by 1 always equals itself. Right? You will have problems that ask you to use the number properties to multiply. The work I am looking for is going to be done exactly like the problem we just worked together. Okay? Next up. Modeling real life. A swimmer's best time in event is 53.87 seconds. On average, his best time decreases by 0.28 seconds each of the next 5 times he swims the event. Does he accomplish his goal of swimming in less than 52.5 seconds? So I've highlighted a couple of different words here that I think are really going to help us. Let's start off with his first original event. How long did that take him?
53.87.
All right, let's write that down. 53.87 seconds is what it took him. Now it tells us that his best time, you can see I highlighted it, decreases. If it decreases, what sign is that?
Subtraction.
Minus. Okay, we're going to subtract. And how much is it subtracting each time?
0.28.
0.28 seconds. Now, does he only do that one time?
No.
No. How many times?
5.
So technically, I could go minus 0.28, minus 0.28, minus 0.28, minus 0.28, minus 0.28. Or you can remember what this word means. What's the clue word each mean? What sign?
Multiply.
Multiply it. So instead of subtracting it 5 different times, I'm just going to multiply it by the number 5 because he did it 5 different times. Now, I've got 2 things that I got to do. I need to subtract, and then due to having these parentheses, I need to multiply. Think about PEMDAS. What do I do first? Multiply or subtract?
Multiply.
I need to do multiply instead of subtraction. So let's go ahead and multiply these two numbers together off to the side. All right, I know that 0.28 went over 2 times. This didn't go over at all, so I'm going to be moving my decimal point over at least 2 times, okay? Jackson, 8 times 5? 40. 2 times 5? 10. With moving the decimal point over, what's my answer? Okay, 1.4. Very good. So I'm going to go ahead and put 1.4 here. Is there anything else over here I need to drop down?
Yes.
What? Okay, I've got to drop down everything I haven't used yet. 53.87 and the subtraction sign. Okay, on the right-hand side. When I am subtracting, do I need to line up the decimal points? Yes, when adding and subtracting, you always do. So once again, just show your work over here. 53.87 minus 1.4. We're going to line up those decimal points, which means I need a 0 placeholder. What do you get when you subtract that, guys? 52.47. Is this my final answer? No, do not box that answer in. Instead, go back and ask yourself the question. Here's what it says. Does he accomplish his goal of swimming in less than 52.5 seconds?
Yes.
No.
Do you think this number is smaller than 52.5?
All you have to do is put a 0.
Think about it. That means 52.50. Is this smaller than 52.50?
Yes.
Okay, so that is correct. The answer is yes. He was able to accomplish his goal of swimming in less than 52.5 seconds. All right, we saw a problem like this a few days ago. A grizzly bear weighed 600 pounds. After hibernating for 5 months, she only weighed 500 pounds. How much weight did she lose per month? So since we already did something similar to this, what should I start with?
Your first number.
We're going to start with the final weight first, okay? We're going to use a verbal model, so go ahead and write down these words. And then I have to subtract something from the final weight. What do you think I have to subtract?
The starting weight.
The starting weight or the initial weight, the weight that it was at the beginning. And then I have to divide it by something. What do you think I should divide it by?
The number of months.
The number of months, which is our time. So we'll always be dividing it by time. Let's go ahead and just plug in some numbers. First things first, what was the final weight?
500 pounds.
500 pounds. Then notice it says right here we have to subtract. So we're going to bring down our subtraction. And what was the initial weight?
600 pounds. Yes, that's
600 pounds. Jordan, how much time did it take for this to pass?
5 months.
5 months. What is 500 pounds minus 600 pounds?
100.
Not 100. Negative 100, because remember you got to take the sign of the larger number. So negative 100 pounds, and we're going to divide by 5 months. Now, if you look back at the question, it asks you how much weight did she lose per month. So I don't want to know how much she lost in 5 months. I want to know how much she lost in 1 month. What we basically need to do is divide this by 5 to get it to equal 1 at the bottom. And then I've got to divide by 5 on the top. So let's start off with this right here. A negative number divided by a positive number. Will my answer be positive or negative?
Negative.
It's going to be negative because there was one negative number there. What is 100 divided by 5?
It'd be 20, but
20, okay?
there's a negative sign, so it'd be negative 20.
Negative 20. And then what is 5 months divided by 5? 1 month, okay? And this negative 20 was negative 20 what? Pounds. So if I go back and I look at my question and what it was asking me, it says, how much weight did she lose per month? She lost negative 20 pounds per month. All right? Memorize this formula of how we do a problem like this. You take the thing that was final, subtract the thing at the beginning, and divide it by the amount of time that it took. Next problem. You play a game on your phone. For every correct move you make, you receive 10 points. For every second that it takes you to complete the game, you lose 3 points. You complete the game in 20 seconds using 9 correct moves. How many points is your final score? So there's a couple things that I can do here. The first thing I got to do is figure out how many points I'm getting from my correct moves. How many points do I get for making a correct move?
10. 9.
Look right here. For every correct move you make, you receive 10 points. How many correct moves did I make?
9.
It says I had 9 correct moves. So I can do 10 plus 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 10. Or what can I do?
Multiply by 9.
Just multiply it times 9. Guys, what's 10 times 9?
900.
90. Is that positive or negative points?
Positive.
Positive. It says that you make 10 points. So we get 10 points just for every single time that we make a correct move. Now there's a way I lose points. How do I lose points?
Every second.
Okay, by the time that it takes me. So let's write the word time. If I take a second, how many points am I losing?
9.
No. Wait, no, 9.
3 points. Is that positive 3 or negative 3 points? Negative 3 points because I'm losing it. How many seconds did it take me to finish this game?
20.
20 seconds. What is negative 3 times 20?
Negative 60.
Okay, negative 60. Because there was one negative right here, we know that our answer has to be negative. So I have positive 90 points and negative 60 points. What is 90 minus 60?
Negative 30.
Okay, I heard negative 30.
30.
Take the sign of the larger number. So what's the answer?
30.
30. All right, be careful. Don't complicate a simple problem like 90 minus 60. It's just 30. And then because it's a modeling real life problem, we have to remember to attach the
Name.
units. Okay, so the question says how many points is your final score? The answer is 30 points. Remember, for modeling real life, always make sure you have some kind of units attached. Evaluate the expression when x equals 2 and y equals negative 6. Repeat after me. Plug it in, plug it in.
Plug it in, plug it in.
All right, guys, what am I plugging in for x squared?
2.
2 squared. Holly, what am I plugging in for the y?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. Jackson, what do I do next? Correct. 2 times 2 is 4, divided by negative 6. Chandler, reduce that for me, please. 2/3. Is the answer positive or negative? Okay, because I had a negative there, it is a negative answer. I do not care if you attach it to the numerator or the denominator or on the outside. It all means the same thing, negative 2/3. Next one, Justin. Plug it in, plug it in. Instead of negative x, what will I have?
What? Instead of x, you have
Negative 2 times 5. And Justin, what do I add? Plus,
plus y, which is 6.
it's not 6.
Wait, isn't it? Negative 6.
Negative 6, okay? Please make sure you plug everything in first. Now, I don't want you to do the work in your head. I want to see it out here written out like this, okay? As you look at this, okay, we've plugged it all in. What do I do first? The multiply right here,
Parentheses.
okay? Is there any work to do inside my parentheses?
Nope.
There is not.
So 2 times 5 is 10, negative 10.
Okay, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10 plus a negative 6.
Which is 16 positive.
Okay, why is it 16 positive?
There's 2 negatives equals 1 negative.
2 negatives equals a positive when you multiply or divide. Am I multiplying or dividing?
No.
No. Remember our rules. Same sign, add and keep. Different signs, subtract and take. We do have the same sign because it's a negative 10 and a negative 6. So you need the same sign, add the numbers, keep the sign. What's our correct answer?
Negative.
Negative 16. All right, be careful with those rules. You've got to remember to keep it straight whether you are adding and subtracting or multiplying and dividing. Next one. Write the decimal as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. Let's start with our whole number. What is the whole number in negative 4.6?
Negative
Negative 4. I'm just going to rewrite negative 4. Now I have a part of a number, 0.6. What place is the 0.6 in? Tenths. So that means I have 6 over 10 because I have 6 tenths. Jordan, can that be simplified?
Yes, ma'am.
What does it become?
2 over 5.
Not 2 over 5. I'm going to keep the negative 4. You can divide it by 2 on top and 2 on bottom. When you do that, what do you get? Jordan, what do you get? All right, 3 over 5. So our correct answer is negative 4 and 3/5. All right, here we go. What place is the 76 in? It's not the tenths. The 7 is the tenths. The 6 is in the hundredths. So this means I have 76 hundredths. Now, can that be simplified?
Yes.
Yes, these are both even numbers, so we know for sure they can be divided by 2.
Yes.
What is half of 76?
38.
Okay, what is half of 100?
50.
50. Can this be simplified?
Yes.
Yes, because both of these are even numbers. Let's cut it in half again. What is half of 38?
19 over 25.
Okay, we get 19 over 25. Can that be simplified?
No.
No, there is nothing that can go into 19 that can go into a 25. So when you do this and you put it in simplest form, you get 19/25. Please be careful on your quiz and your test. The way a lot of people lose points is because they forget to simplify their answers. So make sure you always bring it down into simplest form. All right, this is our last slide of today. Write the mixed number as a decimal. When you see that this says negative 3 over 16 or negative 3/16, what sign does that fraction bar mean? Divide. So which number should I write underneath my division
3.
sign?
You write the top number.
You always put the top number. I don't know why, but lots of people are missing this on their homework from yesterday. You always put the top number first, and the bottom number always goes on the outside. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put our decimal point and add 3 zeros. Remember to bring that decimal point up. How many times can a 16 go into a 3?
1. No, 0.
0 times. How about a 30?
Once.
1 time. So we're going to put our 1 above the 0 in 30. 1 times 16?
16.
16. Let's subtract it. What do you get? 14. Bring down the 0. All right, a lot of times when people do a problem like this, they want to round this. That 16 is pretty close to a 15, but it's probably easier for us to count by 20s. Just know, though, if we count by 20s, we're probably going to get a number that is a little bit too small, okay? So let's just count by 20s till we get about to 140 and maybe guess a number or two higher, okay? Here we go. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. All right, so we're guessing about a 7. Do you want to stick with a 7 or should we bump up to an 8?
8.
Let's try an 8 just because we guessed a number a lot bigger than the 16. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. When we subtract, we get 12. And is that smaller than 16? Yes, it is. So great job. Now we need to bring another what down?
0.
Another 0 down. Once again, we're going to kind of guesstimate. Let's think of this 16 like a 20. Count with me until we get to about 120. 20,
40, 60, 80, 100, 120.
Okay, how many was that?
6.
So do we want to guess a 6 or a 7?
7.
Let's try a 7. Good idea. 7 times 6 is 42. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11. When we subtract this, we get an 8. Is the 8 smaller than the 16? All right, you're good. Am I done? No, I need to add another 0, and let's drop the 0 down. How many times do you think a 16 can go into an 80? Okay, count by 20s till we get to 80. 20, 40, 60, 80. All right, so do we want to try a 4 or do you want to bump it up to a 5?
5.
All right, let's try a 5. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 80. Remember, when you end with a 0 at the end, you are completely finished. Let's go back to the original problem. It said Negative 3/16. So what is my answer?
Negative 0.1875.
Thank you for remembering the answer has to be a negative. Because we started off with a negative, it has to end with a negative. All right, let's go on to the next one. 2 1/6. Let's go ahead and turn it into an improper fraction. Addie, what would that be as an improper fraction? 13/6. Micah, when I do 13/6, which number should get tucked underneath the division sign? The 13 is correct, and I'm going to divide by 6 on the outside. Now I'm going to do a decimal point and 3 zeros. How many times can a 6 go into a 13? 2 times. Jonte, keep going for me. 2 times 6? 12. 13 minus 12? 1. Bring down your 0. How many times can 6 go into 10? 1 time. 1 times 6 is 6. 10 minus 6 is 4. Bring down the 0. Guys, how many times can 6 go into 40?
6.
6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. How many times can 6 go into 40?
6, but it's a repeating
6 times 6 is 36. How many times can 6 go into 40? 6. Do you notice a pattern?
Yeah.
Yes. Once you see it is repeating like 3 times, that's when you want to stop. On the homework, a lot of people messed up how to write repeating numbers. Which number is repeating?
6.
So I only want you to write the 6 one time. What is the answer, guys?
2.16 repeating.
Okay, and only put the repeating symbol on top of the 6. Is this answer positive or negative?
Negative.
Why is it negative?
Positive.
It is positive. If you look right here, this started off positive, so our answer will be positive. Your quiz on Monday is covering 2.1 through 2.5, so please review this video and study for it over the weekend.